All right, folks, we'll start in about 3 minutes. All right, everybody, it's 12 o'clock and we like to start on time and end on time. This is a 30-minute webinar that will talk about the New Jersey Office of Faith-Based Initiatives FY22 Project Atlas funding opportunity. We'll hold all questions to the end. You can raise your hand by clicking the participant box, I think, or you should have a raise hand option on the bottom of your phone or on the bottom of your laptop. And what I'll do then is at the end, I will answer whatever questions you have. We have someone on Facebook that is going to look at that and see if there's any questions there, and then they'll text me those questions to my phone and I'll answer those. Okay, so let's begin. So this is the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives website. When you get to this page, now the OFBI website is www.nj.gov/state/ofbi.shtml. Listen, I don't remember that. So what you can do is Google New Jersey Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, and it'll bring you to this page. Now, if for some reason you're brought to any of these other pages, what you want to do is click the OFBI homepage, and it'll get you to the our homepage. When you get here, you'll scroll down to the bottom where it says grant opportunities, and you click grant opportunities. When you click grant opportunities, hold on. What happens, it'll bring you to our grant opportunities page. So since we're focusing on Project Atlas today, let me read, there's a disclaimer here in red that reads, Project Atlas organizations that were funded in FY20, which is 2 years, which is last year, well, 2 years ago, and or FY21, which was last year, cannot apply for Project Atlas FY22. So if you applied last year and you were awarded, and if you applied the year before last and you were awarded, you cannot apply for Project Atlas FY22. So let me just give you a tour of the OFBI website. So when you scroll down, you'll see NJ OFBI FY22 funding opportunities. And each of these links is a particular application. So today we're focusing on Project Atlas. The application due date is May 21st, 2021 at 4:59 p.m. There are some supporting documents that you're going to need to upload. Excuse me. Here's a board resolution that that's fillable that you'll need to upload. And let me bring that up too. And then there's a Project Atlas readiness assessment that you're going to need to upload as well. And I'm going to explain that in a minute. There's also our technical assistance webinars, right? That I'm going to show you right now. So when you click on technical assistance webinars, or if you come to the navigation bar and you click webinars, it'll bring you to our webinar page. Now, this is real important. If you've never applied for if you never applied for a grant to the New Jersey Department of State, right? You need to register to get onto Blue Sage. Now, there's two different colors of SAGE now SAGE stands for systems. I forget what the acronym is. Somebody can help me out. Something system, something grant, something. Anyway, SAGE, it's our electronic platform where you complete applications. And if you've never applied for an application for the New Jersey Department of State, then you need to register onto Blue Sage. Okay? So you click on this, it's a 5-minute webinar. You follow the steps, you submit it, and then within, I don't know, 5 business days, you'll receive an email from the SAGE administrator in the Department of State that says you now have access to SAGE, and then you can apply for your application, right? You can begin the app, you can use your username and password. Now listen, don't lose, well, let me just focus on this. So hold on for a second, somebody's texting me. Yeah, SAGE stands for Systems for Administering Grants Electronically. Thanks, Zainab. So you need to watch this one first. Then the next webinar you need to watch is Step 1, Organization Information. There's 5 documents that you need to upload into SAGE in order for us to approve you for funding. And the 5 documents are, you need to upload a charity's registration number and proof that that number is valid, a business revenue number and proof that that number is valid, your IRS 501c3 determination letter, your certificate of incorporation, not your articles of incorporation, your certificates of incorporation, and your certificate of standing. This webinar provides you step-by-step instructions on how to navigate the New Jersey Department of New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs charity registration page, where you can find out where you can get your charity's registration number. And if you're non-compliant, the webinar tells you what you need to do in order to become compliant. And that's key. You need to become compliant in order for us to fund you. It'll also give you step-by-step instructions on how to navigate the New Jersey Department of Treasury, so you can download your Division of Revenue number and proof that that number is valid. You can download your articles of incorporation, and you can download your certificate of standing. Now, there's a fee for those documents. So what I suggest is that you not wait until the week of May 21st to do this, because some of you may not have a charity registration number. And so you're going to have to go through the process to get that. So while you're getting your charity registration number or finding out why it's non-compliant, you can begin to do your application now, and then like by April, you should have that information to you, right? And then if you scroll down, there are individual webinars specific to funding opportunities. So this webinar here is step-by-step instructions on how it'll go over the overview of the grant guidelines. It'll show you how to access the applications for Project Atlas. Same thing for social innovation. It'll go into details about the guidelines and accessing the application and creating the application. Same thing for special projects. It'll go into details about the guidelines, the grant guidelines or the RFP, and how to create and access the application on Sage. And the same thing for social enterprise entrepreneurship development, seed grant. It'll go in details over the guidelines and how to create and access your specific application. Now, if you're applying for Project Atlas, right? If you're applying for Project Atlas, you cannot apply for any other funding opportunity. Why? Because Project Atlas is a capacity building grant, right? And it really focuses on helping emerging nonprofit organizations establish and create systems within the organization that allow it to be more functional in its day-to-day operations as it moves forward. The funding opportunity, the award amount for Project Atlas is $10,000. The application is due May 21st at 4:59 p.m. Again, if you were funded in FY20 or FY21, you cannot apply for Project Atlas FY22. Now, some of you may be confused. Well, how can you be in FY22 if we're in 2021? Our calendar year, our fiscal year is not a calendar year. Our fiscal year starts July 1 of, like, for example, July 1 of 2021 is our fiscal year 2022, right? And then it ends June 30th of 2020, let me see. It ends June 30th. So our fiscal year starts July 1 of 2021, which is our fiscal year 2022, and ends June 30th, 2021. All right. So I went over the training webinars. Applicant organizations must meet all eligibility requirements. You must establish a Project Atlas leadership team. A leadership team is comprised of 3 to 5 volunteers. They can be your existing board members, or if the organization doesn't have a board of directors, the leadership team can be what is developed into the organization's advisory board. Now, this is key in order to get a grant from Project Atlas, from us for Project Atlas, because we don't want just one person managing the organization. We need you to find a leadership team comprised of 3 to 5 individuals that believe in the mission or the vision of the organization so we can move forward. Okay. Yes, New Hope Missionary Baptist, did I hear correctly that if we apply for this grant, it doesn't disqualify you, you just can't apply for any other grant, because if you're applying for Project Atlas, you lack the capacity to apply for anything else, right? You don't have a board of directors, you don't have the infrastructure in place, you don't have checks and balances in place, then Project Atlas is geared to that. And I'll explain what that means later on. So don't leave the meeting because I'm saying you can't apply for anything else. You need to assure that the leadership team attends required technical assistance sessions, conferences, and workshops. We understand that a lot of the members of your leadership team have regular 9-to-5 jobs, and so what we try to do is have all these sessions in the evenings during the week. All right. You work with an OFBI identified coach to develop an individualized organization sustainability assessment plan. It's an action plan on how on identifying, the top 3 issues within the organization. And this coach will help you implement those systems in your organizations. The $10,000 that you receive from OFBI for this grant will be used to implement the pilot project of your choosing. So we're not going to tell you what the pilot project is. Our focus is really capacity building, and then the grant allows you to, receive a grant from a particular funding source, learn how to implement the grant, learn how to understand how to submit reports in a timely fashion, how to do budget revisions, how to communicate with a funder, how to evaluate the effectiveness of your particular grant. So this gives you some practice for those organizations that are new to the process of receiving a grant from a state entity. The leadership team needs to dedicate the time and effort needed to work effectively under this initiative and assure that strict compliance with all state requirements as specified in this grant. Now, ineligible applicants, we don't fund houses of worship. I know our name is the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, I get it. But we don't fund religious institutions. We don't fund mosques, temples, synagogues, churches. our funding is state taxpayer dollars, and we can't use our state taxpayer dollars to fund religious institutions for the provision of social services. So if a religious institution creates its own separately incorporated 501c3, separate and apart from the house of worship, then we can work with you. Eligibility criteria. Applicants must be a nonprofit organization serving low-income residents and deemed, listen, this is key, your 501c3 determination letter must state that you are created for charitable purposes. If your 501c3 determination letter states that you are created for religious purposes, then we're not going to be able to fund you. Because what happens is that a lot of nonprofits that are created by their house of worship think that they can use their house of worship's 501c3 determination letter, and the house of worship 501c3 determination letter is set up specifically for religious purposes and not for charitable purposes. And so you need to read that, because we read that internally and we make a decision based on your 501c3 determination letter. The organization's budget must be between $0 and $100,000, not the program budget, but the organizational wide budget must be between $0 and $100,000, because we're trying to work with and help emerging small grassroots nonprofit faith and community-based organizations. Again, you must be tax exempt by the IRS. You must have a Division of Consumer Affairs charitable registration number. You must have a Division of Revenue a number and validate that number is good. You must be in good standing with the Department of Treasury. You must upload your certificate of incorporation. And these are all the documents, ladies and gentlemen, that all nonprofits need to have in place in order to do business with the state of New Jersey. So this is what we're asking of you isn't specific to the Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. What we're asking of you is documents that you should already have or be able to get in order to show that you can do business with the state of New Jersey, right? Applicants must also be in existence for at least 1 year. I mean, just, like last year, not that you're creating one this year, but that you've been around on paper since last year. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have been implementing anything. So capacity building and sustainability activities. What is Project Atlas about? So capacity building is defined as your organization's ability to identify and prioritize its development goals and achieve specific improvements that help you more effectively fulfill your mission, right? And sustainability results from ongoing capacity building, and it's the long-term stability and viability of your organization in the community. So we're simply asking you that to look at your ability to operate your organization. You will establish high-performing work teams, like I talked about that earlier. Now, the application is going to ask you to identify capacity building and sustainability activities. And so instead of you trying to figure out what that means, we've identified in broad terms what those activities can mean. Here, you can look at developing effective boards and board governance processes with the coach. You can build the skills and stewardship abilities of the executive leadership. You can develop and implement long-term strategic plans. You don't have to do all of these. You could do one of these, or you could do two of these. You can enhance your technological capacity with our funding. You can build partnerships and collaboration with other community organizations. You can learn how to evaluate, document, and improve the outcome and impact of your services, right? And so the eligibility of budget expenses. So we could talk about that real quick. So eligible expenses for grantees will be aligned with the development needs of the organizations as guided by the sustainability assessment. And the sustainability assessment is an action plan that you and your coach will develop, right? And so you can look at, do you need assistance in the broad category of leadership? And what does that mean? Do you want to create a volunteer management plan? Do you want to create a volunteer recruitment plan? Do you want to create board policies? Do you want to create executive succession plans? Do you want to provide management leadership training to your staff? Do you want to recruit board members? So this is what we're talking about in terms of leadership. And so when you write the application is going to ask you specific questions about capacity building, right? Right? And all your answers, you can pull directly from the language in this application, because we're telling you everything that you need to know. You can look at organizational development and say, okay, we'd like to focus on certain areas in organizational development. And you don't have to do leadership, organizational development, and program development or community engagement. You can choose one category, or you can choose multiple categories, and you can choose maybe one subcategories if you're going to go multiple, right? If you choose one category, let's say you choose organizational development, you don't have to do all of these bullets. You can choose one or two. Do you want to create a staff performance review process? Do you want to create job descriptions? Do you want to update an annual report? Do you want to implement a staff performance review process? Do you want to implement new financial management procedures? So we're giving you what the subtopics are of this larger topic to help you better narrow what you want to focus on during your year as a Project Atlas grantee. On the program development, do you want to analyze outcome data and evaluate effectiveness of current services? Do you want to create an outcome measurement plan? Do you want to research and develop new programs or services? Do you want to take steps to increase the effectiveness of existing services? Do you want to take steps to increase the number of or scope of services? And under community engagement, do you want to conduct assessment of your community needs? Do you want to create or update a brochure? Do you want to develop new strategic partnerships? Do you want to make presentations to community groups? So these are all examples of large topics, right, of capacity building, and then the subtopics that you can do under that larger topic, right? Now, the readiness assessment. Let's talk about the readiness assessment, because you're going to have to complete, you and your leadership team are going to have to complete a readiness assessment, and it's already laid out for you. So this is what the readiness assessment looks like, and you can download it from our website here under readiness, Project Atlas Readiness Assessment, right? You could just download it. It's fillable. It's a fillable PDF, and it's asking you, I don't know, like 11 questions. And it's basically, forcing you to think about your organization's capacity and your willingness to work under Project Atlas. And it's on a Likert scale, from 1 being not ready to 5 being ready. And if for some reason you identify yourself not being ready for any one of these questions that you've answered, then you need to write it in the in this section in here, why you're not ready. It won't preclude you from receiving funding, but it'll help the coach understand where you're at in thinking about the capacity of your organization and what you might need in order to get ready. These questions are pretty straightforward. Are you willing to establish a leadership team that will spend approximately 20 hours, not a week, but about a total of 20 hours in the year on working on capacity building issues with a coach? Will you assure that members of your leadership team attend all required meetings, trainings, and conferences, which will be done in the evenings? Are you willing to implement your capacity building work plan to institute the organization's improvements your leadership team has prioritized? Will you maintain ongoing communication with your capacity building coach to report on your progress? Will you learn about and gain greater access to information, resources, community assets, and the work of other faith and community-based organizations, nonprofit service providers? Will you develop your knowledge and skill in the effectiveness operation of social service organizations? This is just really, challenging you and the leadership team to say, we want to run an effective nonprofit organization. If we want to impact the lives of human beings in our community, you can't do that if your nonprofit is not set up internally to be able to move your mission and vision forward in the community. And so this readiness assessment really focuses on challenging you and asking you questions that you need to answer in order to move forward as an organization. Remember, Project Atlas it's really more focused about improving the internal capacity, your ability to manage the day-to-day operations of the organization that then allow you to practice to implement the pilot project specific to your geographic location for services that need to be provided, right? So it's a twofold attempt. All right, let me scroll down to application requirements, right? So when you look at the webinars, let me see where they're at. If you look at the webinar, you want to click on the Project Atlas webinar because it's going to give you, it's going to go into in-depth detail about the grant guidelines, which is what I'm going to go over now briefly, right? So in the project summary, we're asking you to answer these 4 bullets. We're not asking you to answer any other 4 bullets. We're not asking you to put other additional information that speak outside of these 4 bullets. We need you to answer these 4 bullets. Explain the mission history and how many years your organization has been providing community social services. Ensure that all clients receive services are low income. And how will you verify their low income status? Indicate the number of years, numbers of people served, and the type of services provided. Clearly explain your understanding of the Project Atlas grant. The description must indicate the readiness to participate and commitment to strengthen your organization's sustainability and capacity to provide quality targeted services. Let me give you a rule of thumb, right? This RFP and all RFP has certain language and certain words that are specific to the RFP or the grant guidelines. If you just go back and look at the grant guidelines and focus on these concepts, these ideas, understanding what capacity building and sustainability really means when I talk about the nature of capacity building and sustainability, and just use the same language, you will more than likely let the peer reviewer know that you know what you're talking about, right? We don't want you to make anything up, right? Hold on for a second. So the next section is, hold on. The next section is organizational capacity. So in this section, we're asking you, provide a brief overview of the organization's capacity needs, provide a description of the makeup of the board of directors, provide a description of the executive staff, the volunteers, who are they, what are their roles relative to the provision of social services, right? The readiness assessment that we already talked about, which is this one, this document that you can download, and it's a fillable PDF. We're asking you to then upload the readiness assessment under required appendices. So as long as you do this, this is just asking you to make sure that you download the readiness assessment. Statement of need. In this section, we're asking you to review the results of the readiness assessment, right, that you did with your leadership team, and identify the strengths, long-term sustainability, capacity to serve the community. Like based on your readiness assessment, based on the definition of capacity building and sustainability, based on the larger topics of capacity building and the subtopics of capacity of those larger topics, just let us know, where do you think you fall, and what are the issues of capacity that your organization needs to address. List the members of your proposed Project Atlas leadership team. Briefly summarize each team member's number of years and nature of experience and the assets they bring to your team, right? The people need to have certain skill sets to be part of an organization, and you as an organization and leader of the organization need to be able to identify what those skill sets are and bring folks on board. You don't just want a body because you need a body. You want a body that brings skill sets to the organization that can help the organization move forward. Then you have statement of collaboration. So we're in this section of the application on SAGE, we're just simply asking you to identify 3 collaborating partners and identify what their role is and how they will help you move your mission and vision forward. Project design. Describe the training and technical assistance that the organization has identified to benefit the Project Atlas team. So really, this is really talking about, what training and technical assistance do you think you need internally for the organization, for the leadership team, in order to position the organization to be effective in its day-to-day operations. The next section is a target population. Who's your target population? What's their gender, what's their income, and what's their educational status. Capacity building goals and project goals. So in this section, capacity building goals and project goals, we want to know 2 things. We want to know, what are your capacity building goals? At the end of year 1, what is it that you want to have accomplished? Do you want to have a plan to recruit board members? Do you want to have a draft of a strategic plan? Do you want to identify how to better evaluate the effectiveness of your program? And then for your project goals, you identify what are the goals and objectives of your specific pilot project. That's all. That's all we're asking you to do, okay? The evaluation indicate how you will measure and whether to what extent your organizational and program goals have been achieved, and the budget. All right, so you're gonna have to complete all budget forms in Sage, right? And these are expenditures that you may not have thought about, but that you can actually identify in your budget. So we will allow you to use $2,000 of your grant funds can be used for purchase of technology, right? Up to $2,000. We will allow you to use up to $1,500 of your grant funds can be used for administrative costs. Now, to some of you, this might be such a foreign concept that you have no idea what's going on, because nonprofits have been stymied by funders from identifying admin costs. So the best way for me to explain it to you is that administrative costs are costs that have not yet been realized. That's the best way I can explain it, right? So let's say you're building out your budget, you have up to $1,500 that you can put for admin costs, and that $1,500 allows you to use that money for expenses that you didn't realize were gonna be needed when you created the budget or when you created the program, all right? That's just the best way for me to explain it. You can budget up to $1,000 of grant funds can be used for staff development. Now, the reason why I think that's important is because if you're applying for Project Atlas and it's a capacity building grant, your staff needs training. I mean, just plain and simple, man. I mean, your staff might need to know how to write grants. Your staff might need to know how to do community outreach. You think you know how to do community outreach until you actually learn, because you don't know what you don't know. You know, the $1,000 can be used for staff development. Whether that means allowing your staff to go to leadership training, you know, paying for a class in college, for public administration, a certificate program, something where you can show the value of how much you value your staff in your organization. And finally, 85% of the OFBI funding can be used for personnel. Up to 85% of the OFBI funding can be used for personnel. Required appendices. You need to upload the board resolution, which looks like this. It's a fillable PDF, and it's found on our website here on the board resolution, right? It's a fillable PDF. You fill out you got to download it and then fill it out, and you need to have Adobe. Since it's going to be challenging to get signatures, because, you know, we're still in COVID, you can print your name here. The executive director's name goes here, the board chair or the second in charge name goes here. You check off this box here, and then you have your board secretary or whomever is akin to the board secretary complete the bottom document here and have him or her sign there. You save it, and then you upload it into board resolutions. Now, you're going to say, well, where's the board resolution? Well, if you watch the webinar, right, the webinar is going to show you where all these documents need to be uploaded. And if you watch Step 1 Organization, it's going to show you where all those 5 documents need to be uploaded: charity registration, division of revenue, 501c3 determination letter, certificate of incorporation, and certificate of standing. So when you call us, right, well, let's say you call us and you're like, where do I upload the board resolution? You know what we're going to say? Watch the webinar. That's what we're going to say, because when you ask that question, we know you did not watch the webinar. So we're going to say, go watch the webinar, right? You need to upload your readiness assessment. If you call us or you email us and say, hey, where do I download the readiness assessment? Well, you know what we're going to say? Go watch the webinar, because in the webinar, it tells you step-by-step instructions. Also, your most recent IRS form 990, right? Because we want to make sure that your budget is between $0 and $100,000. So you need to upload your most recent 990. Now listen, the application is due May 21st. Organizations are not very timely in submitting their 990s of this year for 2021. So if you can get us 2021, the earliest one that we'll accept is 2020, right? We'll accept your 2020 because that's 2 years ago, right? Because we'll accept your 2019 because this year is for last year and last year is 2020 and you might not get it in before the due date. So we'll accept your 2019 990, all right? And all this other stuff down here is templated language about non-discrimination of religious organizations, recognition of cultural sensitivity. You know, you got to be sensitive to all folks that are coming to your organization. You got to be sensitive to all religious folks that are coming to your organizations for services. This talks about reporting requirements, the training, and other application information. So that's really it for Project Atlas. I see that there are, if you have any questions, can a community college apply for this grant? Ira Weissman, the answer is no. No, because how are you going to tell me that the agency-wide budget of a community college is between $0 and $100,000? And why would a community college need capacity building at this stage? Okay. New Hope Missionary Baptist Church. Did I hear you correctly that if we apply for this grant, it disqualifies you for other grants? Yeah, you heard me correctly. This is a capacity building grant. If you apply for this grant, then that means that you lack the capacity to implement other grants that we have. And so the hope is that after you receive this grant, and you go through the training and you go through the coaching, that next year you're in a better position to submit a more competitive application for our other funding opportunities. Are there any other questions? I answered that live and I answered that live. If you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or you can write a question in the Q&A box. This is streamed live on our Facebook page. So if you want to go back and watch it, just go and go to your Facebook and go to the New Jersey Office of Faith-Based Initiatives page, which is our Facebook page, and it'll be there. And we'll also upload this to our website, so you can have access to this webinar there as well under the webinar link. Oh, let me also show you one thing here. When you're going for your Division of Consumer Affairs charitable registration information, you may have to register for a charity registration number because you may not have one. You may not have one. So under this here, when you go to OFBI, click Grant Opportunities, scroll down and go to Division of Consumer Affairs Charity Registration Number, click DCA Portal Filings, right? When you click DCA Portal Filings, you'll be able to download this document. This document provides step-by-step instructions on how to register to get your charity registration number, right? And or pay whatever filing fees you need to file in order to move from non-compliant to compliant, right? You can't call us about this. You have to deal directly with the DCA portal. And if you have any questions or issues, what you want to do is call this number here, 973-504-6215, 973-504-6215. And this will provide you everything you need to know on how to register for your charity registration number. I think that's it. Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. Nope. So I'm going to assume that no one has any other questions, right? We're good, everybody? All righty. So again, folks, if you want to replay this orientation webinar, you can go to our New Jersey Office of Faith-Based Initiatives page, where you can watch it again. And you can also download it onto you can also access our OFBI Facebook page. And there are no questions on Facebook. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. It is, I'm looking forward to seeing your application. If you got any questions, you can email us at ofbi@sos.nj.gov. That's OFBI, O as in Oscar, F as in Frank, B as in boy, I as in Indian, at sos.nj.gov. That is probably the quickest way to get in touch with us because we're really responsive with emails. Okay, everybody. Thanks for coming on board. And I am going to end the session. Again, if you have any questions, you can email us at ofbi@sos.nj.gov. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.